we get into today's news?
Let's go.
Let's get it.
All right, so we got a lot of news coming out today, but I think one of the most important pieces of news that is coming out is looking at the process for expungement around cannabis-related crimes. That was something that was built into House File 100, for those who don't remember. It was a long and slow process, but we're starting to see some of that effort really come to fruition. So the BCA sent a list of records that they believe qualify for expungement to the Minnesota Judicial Branch. They have until May 13th to object to any of those records. Otherwise, those expungements will begin to go into effect. Really exciting to see, some of these records that really should have not existed in the first place now be moving towards getting expunged.
I'll say, this is what legalization is all about.
Right.
It's we knew we shouldn't have been changing people's lives, taking away their civil rights over cannabis. And now we get to, give them back that life that they had before. It's still, is it enough? That's not, I don't even think it's a question. I feel like it is a start, and it's a good start. So I'm excited.
Yeah, ending criminalization and clearing people's record is the best part of legalization. Mm-hmm. And I'm all about the industry, but, the majority of people in the cannabis space are just consumers.
And
not just, but
excuse my language, but fucking Massachusetts can stop talking about clearing. What they didn't expunge. What they do with their records? Were they just expunged?
I think they just vacated them.
Yeah,
so, yeah. Well,
but it's they're still on these people's records. The people in jail are still in jail.
Yeah, I think we saw Minnesota take one of the most proactive approaches to really trying to clear out these records, really trying to say, this is wrong in the first place. It shouldn't have existed.
Making it automatic. And I'm excited to see when the felony board gets going.
Yeah.
And how many people here, have their rights restored. It's going to be insane, honestly. I think the effect from this part of the bill will have, the most, personal impact on families.
Right.
100%. Yeah. So if you have one of those misdemeanor offenses, be on the lookout. They said they don't have contact information for everyone that would qualify. So looking at that BCA's website is going to be your best way to figure out how to get your specific record vacated. Mm-hmm. John, you mentioned the felony stuff, and we are seeing sort of that begin to work. That Cannabis Expungement Board now has that executive director who started in his job officially last week. Ooh. We now have... that process for expunging.
What's his name again?
So his name is Jim Router.
Go Jim.
Yeah.
Shout out to Jim.
Shout out to Jim, friend of the podcast. Really, really love the work that he's doing. In fact, he said Black and brown communities across the country tend to have been arrested at 3 to 4 times the rate of cannabis-related crimes. There's very significant equitable impact that can be had here, and I could not agree more. No. They're estimating that there could be, if not 25,000, if not double that, of cannabis-related felonies for the board to review over the next couple of months. They're going to have a staff of 30 attorneys and paralegals that are going to be grinding through those. It's definitely going to be a long process, but they're working towards it. So exciting to see that progress being made.
Marcus said something before we were recording, but it must feel good going home. Yeah, working, especially in this space. Oh my God, we're giving people their rights back. It must feel really good going home after doing this work.
Right. Giving people breathing room.
Yeah. Your job is to brick by brick help dismantle that war on drugs. Pretty cool.
So 25,000, what about the other 200,000 people? Is that that's their capacity within the first few months?
So the 25,000 you're saying? Mm-hmm. So they believe, or they know there to be at least 25,000. There could be up to twice that. They were looking at just eligible felony drug cases, but not all of them involve cannabis. Just looking at the cannabis ones, we could see at least 50,000. Yeah, it's confusing. There's a lot of cases that for multiple reasons will qualify for expungement, especially the nonviolent cases involving drugs. We're going to be able to see a pretty significant impact in regards to expungement. So it's cool to have cannabis included in that, but it's also pretty exciting to see that it's not just cannabis.
Good. Yeah, abolish the drug war.
Mm-hmm. Well, should we talk about some counties that are continuing the drug war? No, I'm just kidding. Actually, we do have two different local jurisdictions that we're going to be talking about. One looking at creating a municipal dispensary, and one that is actually trying to do sort of the opposite, placing a moratorium on issuing any cannabis business licenses. Which one should we talk about first, the positive or the negative?
I'd like to start with the bad news.
All right, we'll start with the bad
news out the way.
So we talked about Chippewa County in a past episode, I think like 3 or 4 weeks back when this first was proposed, at looking at imposing a moratorium on issuing any cannabis business licenses. And that moratorium has unanimously moved forward. So on April 2nd, we had that moratorium passed that will be in effect until January 1st of 2025, which is the longest time that those moratoriums are legally allowed to be in effect. So what does this mean? Does it ban people from using cannabis? No. Does it ban people from currently selling cannabis, like the low-potency hemp edibles? Well, not really. What this really mostly focuses on is if you're going to apply for that adult-use cannabis license, they're saying they're not going to do any issuing of that before January of next year.
Which
It's so asinine because they're not going to even be available before that point. This is virtue signaling.
Yeah, they just had nothing to do during a
Yeah, it's
board
really
meeting.
interesting where like, so I think it could take one of two paths. One, we don't really see a ton of legislative action happen this session. We don't see licenses rolled out until early part of next year anyways, and this literally has no impact. The other possibility is that we do see early licensure start to be rolled out, and the only people that are affected by this are social equity applicants. They're basically saying, if you're part of that early licensure process, not here.
No.
Which is pretty disappointing. And I do hope that this is one of those things that ends up having a pretty minimal impact. But it could be something that could say this entire part of West Central Minnesota is just not available to social equity applicants during that first wave of early licensure.
Yeah, for those first 8 months, which is only a detriment for the county. Like, for whoever is pining to do their adult use cannabis operation in Montevideo, like, that poor person has now lost their chance, and they have to go to.
And that's sad because I was thinking of Angela Brown, who was known as Cannomnibus. You know, she was one of the strong advocates in the past years leading up to legalization.
I remember her story.
I think she lives in that area.
Oh.
Yeah, for sure.
And I know she wants to open a dispensary.
Yeah.
You're only harming yourselves, you guys.
Yeah, it's crazy to see them looking for solutions to problems that just don't really exist. All right, well, let's talk about the other side of it, which is cities that are not looking to ban cannabis business, but actually looking to bring it into their city through a municipal business.
Yeah.
We've heard from a couple municipalities, and the newest one to enter that ring is Wayzata. So Wayzata, a suburb here in the western side of Minneapolis, looking at potentially opening a cannabis dispensary.
It's an interesting one because it's like a small, wealthy suburb taking these steps so much earlier than anyone else, and they've reached out to a real cannabis consultancy agency to help them take these steps. Their city council has already voted on, they're trying to get real estate. Like, they are serious about doing this, and it's I think it's a good contrast. It really is, as you see the places that are trying to work it into their economies, and the places are like, whoa, what are we going to do with this? What are we going to do? And it's just like, figure it out. But I'm into what Wayzata's doing. Like, we're all wary of these municipal stores popping up because we don't want them taking away space from, the actual entrepreneurs. But if they're ready, let's see it.
You mentioned off air that this is like the wealthiest zip code in Minnesota, right?
In the state,
Yeah.
One of the top in the country.
There's big money for miles out there.
And it is interesting seeing different municipalities have different approaches to this. We've seen some more, maybe no shade, but maybe more rural communities that look at how do we build this industry sort of ourselves? How do we work with the people in our city to build reports and to figure out what a dispensary would look like? We see sort of the middle approach of let's work with large organizations in the Minnesota, like you might have seen in northern Minnesota. And then you see this, perhaps the wealthiest suburb in Minnesota, that's reaching out to these national consulting firms to say, how should our 2,000 square foot municipal dispensary look? It's an interesting approach, and it's been interesting watching all of it just happen here in Minnesota.
So it's It's gonna be a Lululemon of weed. It'll be a very interesting place. I'm excited to go see the Wayzata Municipal Cannabis Dispensary.
I just gotta say it. I think all of these municipal dispensaries need to post their record under prohibition. Like, we arrested this many people, we ticketed this many people, and we're gonna take a portion of our proceeds to invest in the Minnesota Cannabis College because they're all about equity.
Yeah. I grew up in Plymouth, and I can say I know at least 3 guys who have been arrested in Wayzata with cannabis.
Oh, yeah. I was from New Hope, not too far away from there, and similar vibes, definitely.
I'm from the north side where thousands of people were arrested.
All right, well, so we got one more news story before we talk about the legislative update, and this one, mostly just sort of a for fun story that I saw. There is a dispensary in Ironwood, Minnesota. We'll say their name. It's high-profile dispensary.
Is that Minnesota?
Oh, no. I'm sorry. In
Michigan.
Michigan. Thank you. Yeah, there's a dispensary in Michigan that is offering a deal to Minnesotans, trying to get people to drive just the 2 hours from Duluth to get to their door by offering you, and I love this, gas for gas. You come in and you buy at least $250 of product, and they will give you a $25 prepaid gas gift card. They're not encouraging you to just drive there and then immediately turn around and drive back through Wisconsin. That would be illegal. They're not encouraging that. But they are saying, if you made the trip out here, we'll throw some gas your way, help you pay for the trip back.
Where is the city?
So it's Ironwood. It's just on the border of the UP and Wisconsin.
I was like, if it's in the UP, I'd go. Shit.
I've made that trip to the UP a couple of times. It's a beautiful place to go.
Actually, a good place to spend the weekend.
Yeah, and it's legal with dispensaries open today.
I've driven to Ironwood, and I went through the Wisconsin route. It took like 4 hours one way.
Yeah.
How was the drive?
It was pretty boring.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool if you have good music or whatever. But yeah, it's a long ass drive to get some herb.
Yeah, it's backwood, Wisconsin. It's not anything.
But I think it's an adventure though. You can make an adventure out of it. Yeah. I'd like some gas for gas just for the experience.
You do have to spend $250, which is like at a dispensary, not that hard.
I mean, most people buy like a half ounce to an ounce at a time, so it's not, not beyond what a lot of people are spending anyway.
And we are also not encouraging anyone to drive to this place, pick up $250 worth of cannabis, and get a free gift gas card, and then drive home.
No, just smoke it all in Michigan and then cross the border with your receipt and your empty bags.
We never encourage unsafe consumption, but it is important to note that cannabis doesn't have a lethal dose that we can really meet as people. So it's not like that all being said, it would be fun to drive there, spend 3 people $250, and to see who can get through that quantity of product first. If you went there for a weekend, do you think you could slam $250 of legal cannabis products in 2 days?
2 days. Oh man. All Second day I'll be like, we gotta go back.
All right. Well, here's our next test that we'll have to do.
Stranger things have happened.
We'll have to do a little road trip. We'll talk about this off air, but we gotta go to another legal state, honestly. There's a few around us I think we could get to.
I'm not shopping in Illinois though.
How would you guys feel about a road trip up to Red Lake?
I'm down with it. I've been there.
There we go.
Yeah.
Legal country.
Yeah. We're looking to drive up sometime soon. So we'll see you soon, Native Care.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, so let's take a short break. When we get back, we're going to sample a cannabis product and also talk about some legislative updates. Cool. We got to combine the two of them. They really needed. We'll be right back.
Hey, man, where are you?
What do you mean, where are you? I'm here in the studio. We're getting ready for our class with Bovida.
Oh, I thought you said Maple Grovida.
Maple Grovida. No, man. We're doing a class with Bovida. April 15th, Brian Rice, Matt Robidoux at the Wilderness. We're going to teach you how to dry and cure your cannabis. And if you have an interest in commercial, we'll even teach you that. Marcus, if you can't make it in person, we even have a live stream. mncannabiscollege.org/curing has all the information you need. Tell you a little bit more about the class. Yeah, I can text that to you. All right, talk soon. And we're back. So during this part, we're going to be talking a little bit about some updates from St. Paul and sampling some products here in I guess here in St.
St.
Paul.
Paul.
Dabbler
Yeah, I was
Depot,
gonna say.
Yeah. So we had 2 hearings that happened the day that we're recording this. So if you're listening to this on Monday, it happened last Friday on April 5th in both the House, State and Local Government and the Senate, State and Local Government and Veterans Committee. Really not a huge amount that came out of there. There were a lot of questions that the lawmakers had about what sort of controls local government would have. There was a update from Charlene Briner in both the House and the Senate, just sort of generally updating on what their bill would do in regards to state and local government. But really, I got to be honest, not that exciting of a hearing, if I had to say myself.
A lot of back and forth between, like, should the city have this permission? And then it's like, well, it'll slow us down. It's like, yeah, a lot of back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
It got kind of snippy.
Yeah, especially in the Senate. There were some comments between the chair and other lawmakers that were pretty funny.
Even towards the end, did you hear right at the end? She's like, I did amend it. And she did say it correctly.
We should, I've been loving putting like random cuts of video in here. We're going to throw in some segments of some of our favorite snippy comments from that Senate hearing. So let's run that.
How would that go for a municipality?
Thank you, Madam Chair and Senator Cran. I'm not sure I'm understanding you correctly because I don't think that's at all what this amendment does.
Senator Curran.
Madam Chair, Ms. Briner, so Briner, is it Briner or Briner?
It's Briner.
Thank you.
Ms. Briner.
How will you issue licenses? Or will you require, or hopefully more people
Senator
will
Curran, could we do one question at a time, please? Ms. Briner.
To make sure that it is
Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Briner. Madam Chair, with
Senator
that,
Curran.
one of the,
We
hold on,
do
you guys-
have other people waiting to ask questions.
If you want to go.
Okay. Senator Morrison, I know you've been waiting patiently. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Ms. Briner, we have.
And seeing no further questions, Senator Swazinski moves that Senate Yes, Senator Anderson?
I had my hand up a while ago, but nobody saw it.
Oh, I've been looking left and right. Senator Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Seeing no further questions, Senator Swazinski moves that Senate File 4782 as amended be recommended to pass and re-referred to the Health and Human Services Committee. Please take the roll.
Madam Chair, just on the motion, it was not referred as amended, just a technical issue.
I did say amended.
Wow, those were great. Wow, I love hearing from our lawmakers.
Briner.
It's simple.
The comment that I made to my fiance, and shout out to all of our lawmakers, they're doing good work, but it just goes
Not
to show
all
you
of them.
that they're adults, but they're still children.
I mean, there's a lot of middle school energy that happens
So
in the
much.
legislature.
So much. Yeah, the line between behavioral management of a classroom and behavioral management of a committee
hearing.
I think the same skills.
And the thing is, the CAs don't get. I mean, I guess it's more up to the chair.
They're oh man, they're fun to watch. So yeah, I mean, people can go back and watch the whole thing. We really included the best parts.
I would say something that I took from today's hearing is that there's no plan for supply infrastructure right now.
Yeah.
She said they're putting out a survey to see what kind of licenses and what kind of operating activities people who are ready actually want to do. But as we're working right now, we're looking to give out licenses in July with no plan whatsoever as to supply.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's been a lot of testimony at the legislature, both in this hearing and past hearings, mentioning sort of how that process of actually growing a plant and bringing it to a final product, how long that timeline takes.
Testing the plant, making sure it's up to our standards.
And I have to agree that I think the office is doing a lot of great work really trying to figure out what paving this path looks like. But I think that one area that we're still trying to figure out and hoping to see more is, man, if we issue licenses March of next year, realistically, when are those stores going to open? Well, we're still more than a year out from when that realistically will happen. Yeah. So hopefully we see some advancement coming soon there.
I'd like to see that cultivate. We had there was a group today, I forget their name, and they're preparing their cultivation space. They've been preparing for months like most people. And they're like, we just don't see anything in these provisional licenses for actual supply. And the answer from OCM is there is none. They're not plant touching, and we have no plan for that. And that is very disheartening for consumers, for entrepreneurs, for whoever counts the taxes. Yeah. It's disappointing.
Very.
And I mean, I know they're trying, and a lot depends on if the legislation passes or not. But I mean, if these businesses are not set up for success, yeah, a lot of people are at risk of like losing it all before this shit even starts.
Yeah. So next, this is going to the health committees, both in the House and the Senate. One interesting thing to note is that some of the cannabis bills this session were originally referred to the health committee and then were pulled back and referred to Commerce, allegedly because perhaps the chair wasn't super friendly to some of the ideas that were introduced in those bills. I'll be interested to see what it looks like when, for example, the caregivers provision gets moved to the health committee and what some of the conversations are around that.
Me too. It had to end up in health eventually. I think that was the precaution. Like, let's not go somewhere where we can be set up to fail. But now that it's here, we'll see. Like, honestly, it shouldn't be contentious.
No.
This is not.
And it's been so toned back from where it was before that I'll be curious to see if the discussion is actually, how can we open this up more? But, I mean, it could be anyone's guess at this point. More to come. We don't
counting the plants.
Yeah, for reals. So, as I mentioned, we're recording this on Friday, so we don't yet have the dates of when those new committee hearings are, but definitely be on the lookout. You can go to the House or the Senate's website. You can check those committee schedules, see when that's going to come out.
You can also sign up for bill tracking
There you
information.
go. Yeah, that's another good one.
Bill tracker's huge.
Yeah.
Because you can just hit what is it? I think it's HF 4757, and you can have that sent to you whenever it's doing something.
Yep. You also can subscribe per committee. So if you want to subscribe to these committees, get an email as soon as they schedule their next meeting, you can get that as well. Lots of ways to stay connected with local government.
Yeah. They just make it hard.
Well, before we dig into the product, one thing that we don't have a ton of time to address today, but that we do want to mention and we'll dig into later, is White Earth is looking at amending their cannabis code. Now, currently in White Earth, there are two different rules, one for adult use, one for medical, that are both sort of overseen by this medical advisory board. This would reform it similar to Minnesota's program, where it really united all of that regulation. This would do the same there. However, something interesting to note is that it still would only allow for businesses that are owned in whole or in part by the band. So we wouldn't see, for example, member businesses not owned by the band itself being opened on reservation land. So if you want to provide input on this or anything else, you actually can go and do that. They are taking input until April 17th. You can submit those to the White Earth Reservation Business Committee. We'll put a link to that in here. But really just, I think having people involved in legislation, be it in St. Paul or White Earth, important, all the same.
I have a clarifying question. Now, when it says owned in whole or in part by the band, does this mean like the tribal government or members of that band that live in that area?
Such a great question. So based on my reading of the rules, which just came out the other day, they're still seeking that public comment, is that it would have to be by like the council itself, like the official band government. But I could be misunderstanding that. We're gonna have a deep dive next week. But yeah, it appears as though right now non-band ownership would be allowed for low potency hemp edibles, so people could open those businesses.
So individual members can open
low potency,
hemp,
but
and they can also partner with
the band to open dispensaries.
Okay. Yeah.
But that there would be one medical and adult use dispensary owned by the band. Okay. There could be other just adult use dispensaries also co-owned or owned by the band. And then hemp derived is just individual members.
So if an individual band member that lives in the community wants to open a dispensary, they have to share equity with the band, the government.
That is my understanding of the rules. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, definitely interesting seeing how different tribal nations respond to legalization.
Really like to
I know a guy up
that one
there
develop.
from the community.